I'm super excited today. Today, I'm joined by Niko Ivanov, a music manager, entrepreneur, and partner at NOX Media, where he helps artists like Chad Tepper and Gaddo grow their careers. His story is just a true testament to turning passion into purpose, and I'm super, super excited. I can't wait to dive in, brother.
I'm doing very well. Excited to be here. Appreciate you. Appreciate the intro. Man, I feel like we met, and then right when I met you, I kind of felt like this was going to happen. So long time
Yeah, and
coming.
And I just want to give the audience context to how we met too, because we actually met at a conference and we met at the concert of a conference. And you know, those people that you meet and their just energy is super infectious, and like that person's up to something. That's how I felt, and that was the energy that I felt with you. So I'm super excited that our paths crossed again, and I want to get straight into it because I know so many people are going to get value from your journey and your past. And I've actually done some research on previous podcasts that you went into, and I'm actually going to start off by outing you right from the beginning. So
Let's
you've
go. I
talked
love it.
you've talked about being inspired by the Justin Bieber movie when you were 19, right? And how it opened your eyes to the power of team behind the scenes. So, um, could you speak a little bit more about what was that? What about that moment was something that clicked for you,
Yeah,
and how did it
absolutely.
shape sort of your music management career?
Absolutely. Well, that's hilarious. I feel like I'll never. You know what? I'm not even trying to shy away from it. It is what it is. That movie did change my life. Um, so to get into why I feel like it had such a big impact on me. I mean, first off, I was raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There aren't a lot of music managers running around repping Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's not a lot of entertainment. It's not necessarily thought of as an entertainment hub. Now it's great because a lot of film industry has gone there, which is beautiful and amazing. But 13 years ago, when I was 19 years old, and I had this dream kind of given to me, it was catalyzed by going to the Justin Bieber movie and really it just opened up my eyes to what is actually happening, what goes into a music artist. I mean, growing up in a place where entertainment isn't, like I said, isn't like at the forefront of the culture of our particular city, I didn't really realize anything past the artist, right? Like you see a Drake, a Justin Bieber, a Mac Miller, whoever it may be, and you see them, but there's a whole entity behind these people that are making these moves happen on a greater scale. And so when I had seen that movie, and I'm like, oh, he's got a manager, he's got a security guard, he's got a choreographer, he's got a videographer, he's got a swag coach, like he's got all of these different people that play such vital roles and are helping build the career and the momentum behind the scenes. Yeah, we see the person that's standing on stage, but there are so many people that make that entity move forward. And then it just kind of started to make me think bigger picture and like, oh, well, I could be one of those people, right? So then my whole perspective switched. So then, when I'm watching Grammys, I'm like, oh, well, there's definitely people that are like setting everything up, like literally setting up the stage or, putting together the signage, all of these different things that make a big event an event, not just the faces and the names that we all know. And so that was really inspiring to me. And I immediately just felt like, all right, cool, that's what I want to do. At the time I was going to UNM, I was studying marketing and advertising. Um, and I was like, all right, well, what do I want to do with this? As a freshman in college studying marketing, knew that I wanted to go into that, but knew that I didn't want to necessarily go in and just work like a air quotes traditional marketing job. So the entertainment thing really stuck out to me, and then it just became about how do I blend the worlds and utilize the skills and assets that I bring, or myself as an asset, utilizing those skills and the things that I'm learning um, to something that I'm passionate about.
Now that's inspiring. So, did that traditional marketing degree? Did you end up graduating?
I did, yeah.
Do you think that helped you propel in the industry you're in right now?
Absolutely. So when I graduated from UNM, I moved to LA like right away. A few weeks after graduation, just up and left, moved to LA, got an internship at an experiential marketing company, which did private branded parties around big music activations. So Grammys, Coachella, Art Basel, well, just entertainment activations, not just music, right? And most of these would be branded parties to celebrate an artist, right? So we did first event that I worked was a Grammy party for Childish Gambino, and then there's all of these brands like Diamond, Skull Candy, headphones, Heineken, Belvedere vodka, Red Bull, and then hosting this like super curated, awesome party in downtown Los Angeles, right? So I got that internship by way of my degree and graduating. Um, had a few other jobs, kind of spare some details, but the next big tent pole was working at Paramount Pictures. So I worked in the theatrical marketing department on the international team for a little over 2 years at Paramount. Again, wouldn't have had that job without graduating and without my degree. Not saying that you need your degree, not saying that you need to graduate in order to get where I've gotten or to even, traverse through the entertainment world by any means. But for me specifically, yes, graduating and not only just graduating and having that degree, but the things that I learned while studying were huge, not only just in curriculum, but balancing schedules, etc.
Of course. Now, when you moved to LA, did you have an opportunity already lined up, or it was something like it was a calling, the culture over there? You knew that it was right to be over there rather than in
New
where you
Mexico,
were.
yeah. A little bit of both, man. I mean, I always knew I wanted to move to LA, like basically from 19 years old when I saw that movie and was like, all right, cool, I'm going to work in entertainment. I knew that LA was going to come next. So even majority of the times when I'd have like spring break or whatever, like I'd go to LA just to start to visit and get to know the city a bit more. I did end up applying for that internship, which was unpaid, by the way, and I was working 5 days a week in the office, unpaid.
Oh my
So
God.
a lot of time commitment for no money. And I don't come from money. Like I have a single mom from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like I moved to LA with very little money in my pocket. And then when you start to see those gas prices or more like the parking tickets coming in at like $100, it was like, yo, a parking ticket.
Dreadful.
Oh my gosh. And in Albuquerque, a parking ticket was like $20. So when I got my first one, I was like, oh, all right, cool. I messed up. Opened that sucker and it was like $98. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Fam,
that's
I gotta get this right and crack the Da Vinci Code that is LA street signs. Um, but no, so I did have that internship lined up. The funny thing about that is, though, I applied. I did say that I already lived in LA, which, hey, it worked. And funny enough, I was flying. I had flown overseas, was visiting family, and then was flying back home to Albuquerque. And the whole plan was, all right, cool. I'm going to get back to Albuquerque. I'm going to pack up my stuff and I'm going to move. Well, ended up missing some flights due to some complications overseas, and I got stuck in LA for like 3 days. And I was super bummed because I was like, well, I need to get back so I can get here.
hmm
Um, and while I was stuck in LA for 3 days, I got a call from that internship to have an interview in person. Went
mm.
in, interviewed, crushed it. They were like, all right, cool, you got it. Can you start Monday? I was like, well, let me go pack up my dorm. Give me 2 weeks and I'll be back. Really, it was just go back home, pack up my life, and say goodbye to all my friends and family.
Look how
So,
the universe works.
yeah, yes and no. Like, I knew that LA was next. For many reasons. One, entertainment, but two, I'm also a big faith guy. And a pastor that I really admired was planting a church in LA. Same time. So there was like I knew that I was gonna advance my career, but also be spiritually fed and grown simultaneously, which was huge to me. So I knew that no matter what I was gonna go. So much so that I took an unpaid internship that was 5 days a week and did everything I possibly could to survive. Worked at 24-hour fitness because they don't close. So those 3 a.m. shifts had night shifts at restaurants and things of that nature to just keep it going, stay in the fight.
Now, I want to double click into that, where the early days where you weren't really making much money or any money, but you kept going because you loved it, right? Um, for the people listening, how did you stay motivated? Were there moments where like self doubt crept in, And if so, how did you push through those moments? Because everyone has them, especially entrepreneurs or business owners. There's that moment of like, okay, I'm not making any money. It's hard for me to provide. My friends are working 9 to 5s, maybe have cushiony jobs, but they're not really progressing up the in a personal manner. So how do you progress through that self doubt and push through it?
Yeah, I mean, first off, 100%, there was self-doubt. There was that first year, year and a half, 2 years of LA was very difficult, very trying, especially, like I'm out there on my own. You got friends and family that are, they don't understand. Like, oh, well, first off, I was running around Albuquerque for 3 years saying I'm a music manager. People are looking at me like I got three heads. Like, what do you mean you're a music manager? Like, what? Then I'm moving to LA. Oh, okay. So he's like super serious about this. And then getting to LA and having the challenges that I had and going through those struggles. And I was like, well, why don't you just come home? Like, be a lot easier. Um, Struggling to pay rent, struggling to put money, in the gas tank, like put gas in the car. There were times where kind of going back to church where like we, when the church first launched, we were meeting up on Tuesdays and I would literally drive there a couple hours early after I got off work and just sit there because I didn't have any gas to go anywhere else. And there were times where I'd just straight up cry or be like, yo, God, like, help me out. Like, what's going on? Going to church, feel, spiritually filled up. All right, cool. Enough to like last me that next week. And there were so many times throughout those early days where it was like, miracle check would come in, side job would come in. And truthfully, Mike, like in terms of the self doubt, it was sink or swim. Like I had mentioned, like I don't come from money. I have a single mom, like that. I don't say that lightly. Like I have very humble beginnings, and so much so that there was one time where I called my mom, not too proud to say this, literally crying, like it's probably over. Like I can't pay my rent, don't have food. I have, $2 to put in gas. Like I can't even get a gallon of gas right now to even get to work. Plus, we got to pay for parking at work. Like I need to
Mm,
come home. Like I need to move home. Like I can't do it. And it was that situation where she was like, I don't have any money to even help you get home. So now I've thought about that moment countless times and I reference back to it like, well, thank God. Like it was meant to be that way because I had no choice at that point where a lot of people have an opportunity just to be like, all right, cool, I'm just bail out. Like I'll just go back and get my bearings and figure this out and maybe figure out a new path. And I tried. I went, hit rock bottom, tried to go home. I didn't have any money to get home. My mom doesn't have any money to help me get home. So like, what am I going to do? I literally just have to survive. There's no other option. And that ended up being the biggest blessing because when your back's against the wall, you tend to figure it out.
that's it. It's inspiring, man. Now, considering you come from such humble beginnings, was your mother supportive with your journey, considering, she's a single mother and she wasn't able to as much financially provide when you were on your own? Was she emotionally supportive through the journey? I know there's two different types of parents where, or just very different types of parents where they'll emotionally support and financially support and be there for their children through these types of journeys where there's not a clear path, or there's another parent where they're super like resentful and like, oh, you sure you want to do that, or passive aggressive. Was your mother supportive throughout this whole entire thing, even though there wasn't a clear path?
Super. Yeah. I mean, my mom's the best. She was very supportive. I mean, she's a bit of a free spirit herself. I mean, I was born outside of Baltimore. My mom was a firefighter, had a horrific injury while on the job, and ended up being like forced into early retirement.
Mm.
And then we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, right? Like in when I was 5. So you're talking like 1997. Who's moving? First off, you probably meet very few people from Albuquerque, right? But like,
Very few. Very
who's
few.
moving from like Baltimore, like Frederick, DC area to Albuquerque in 1997? Like, not a very common thing, right? And so I feel like she has always instilled this mantra in me of wherever I go, there I am, right? And so
Mm.
and has always really believed in me and always pushed me like, well, you're going to shine wherever you're at. And like, wherever you go, there you are. And you're going to impact somebody. And so, of course, there was times where, when I'm sad or I'm hurting, especially because I had a single mom and it was just us. I have two older sisters, but they have a different dad and they're a little older. So they live with him. And so it was just me and my mom. So, of course, like, there were times where she was emotionally hurting as well. Like, if I'm hurting, she's hurting. And then, she'd be like, I wish that I could help or get you back here. But no, she was never resentful or anything like that. It was always very much a good life source, if you will, to like push me and believe in me, and that wherever I go, there I am, kind of thing. Always stuck with me, and it still does to this day.
It's powerful to have a figure like that, especially your mother. It's super powerful. So you mentioned a quote, and I want to get into a little something different that I usually don't do. So in a past interview, you said a few things that really stood out to me, not just literally as quotes, but it almost seemed as principles that seem to define how you live and how you work. And I just want to dive into a couple of them, and maybe you could give me some more context to them. So you were mentioning faith, and something that you said was, "I never put faith in a dollar." um, that one's so grounding, especially in a field where the industry is so about money and metrics that often define success, not only just in this industry, but social media. Success is defined uh, by money. Success equals money almost in this world. So could you kind of expand on kind of what that means to you, how you don't put faith in a dollar, and how you manage to stay true to that principle?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I feel like I just kind of said that at some point. Like, like when you said it, I just smiled because I'm like, dang, that's good.
At the bar.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's exactly it. It is a life principle. Is my faith is in one source and one source alone. That's God, and God always provides for me. Money. I know people that, as I'm sure you do, or many of the listeners do. I know people that have a lot of money but are spiritually and emotionally and mentally very broken. Right. So no dollar amount is ever going to fix you. And in those times where I have had doubt or anxiety or stress about what's going to happen, like I've had those conversations where I'm praying, I'm journaling, I'm talking with God, and it's like, well, what's it going to take? How much money will it take for you to feel good, feel secure? Because the thing about money, or really any goal, whether that's an entrepreneurial goal, an artistic goal, is like the field goal post, the goal post rather, always moves. So you want $100,000. Well, now I want 500. Well, now I want a million. Now I want 5 million. And so on and so forth. I want a Grammy. Now I want two. Now I want five. I just want to get on the radio. Now I want a number one single. Now I want
Mhm.
five number ones. Now I want. You see what I'm saying? So
It's always moving.
that goalpost will always move, and therefore you can never feel like the thirst is quenched, right? Whereas, so if you put your faith in something that could never fully satisfy you, wouldn't that leave you empty at the end of the day, right? Um, and I just feel like the biggest thing, yes, a lot of not just this industry, but the world, like you're saying, society in general, is measured by status, what's in your bank account. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's wrong to want to be successful. I think you should want to have the Grammys and the number ones or the money, whatever it may be. I just don't think you should want it more than being good here, right? If you want money and success and accolades more than you want to be a good person or to have peace on your pillow at night, again, you could be sleeping in a $15 million home that could be gone tomorrow,
Hmm.
right? You could be very lonely in a big house.
Hmm.
But I truly believe that, at least for me, my success is more defined by my relationships, how I treat people. Another quote that I love, and I'm sure you've heard, is that people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm a dad, that my daughter and my future kids that they're proud that I'm their father, not because of the fact that I gave them very nice things, but because I instilled in them good life principles, that I treated their mother, my wife, well, and then they could look at that as an example. Like, that's how I want to love and be loved, and that's how I want to treat my friends and be treated by friends, and that's how I want to run and conduct business. Because you could step on people on your way up and you can gain that success, whatever it may be. But again, for me, it's just like, I'm not going to sell my soul. Really, they, a lot of times when people hear like, oh, they sold their soul for this or whatever it means, I'm not sitting there actually thinking about like, oh, this person sat down with the devil and signed a contract. No, no, no. It's like selling out on your principles that start to rob you of what makes you complete, right? And so that's the more practical way that I view that. I'm not gonna sell out and be someone I'm not, or hurt others just to gain, right? Like, what is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul, right?
Mm.
So that's a more in-depth look at what I meant by I don't put my faith in a dollar.
I love that. And just building off of that really quickly, and actually how we met was off of Gary Vee, the influential businessman, content creator, entrepreneur.
Legend.
He legend. He often says his indicator of success is how many people show up to his funeral, right? And
Mm.
that doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, all the accolades that you put up on your wall. It's really how you make people feel and the emotions rather than the figures. So that just goes exactly what you were saying. And you mentioned fatherhood, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I just want to a couple more of these lines because you were just dropping bars in the last podcast that you were on, and I want to make sure that we touch upon a couple of them because I think it's important that our community hears them as well. So, something else that you mentioned, and I think this is my personal favorite, was anytime I see greatness, I'm like, thank you, that's permission. You just unlocked me. Um, I love this mindset, by the way. It's super empowering because a lot of people are threatened when other people make it to the top. Never mind their own friends and immediate like family. Just anybody, they kind of start throwing fingers of like, oh, well, they didn't do this. Oh, they didn't do that. Oh, well, they did. And they constantly throw that criticism out there. But the positive mindset, the winner mindset is like, thank you. You know, that's going to allow me to be better. And I love how you sort of adapt that mindset. So could you just, if you could, share a moment where someone else's greatness really unlocked something for you, and really triggered, like, wow, okay, I've seen them do this, whether it was seeing the blueprint or unlocking a new potential in yourself and a new type of motivation, and how you carry this nowadays with Knox and all the artists that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, you probably heard this from one of the other podcasts, but like, again, a life mantra for me is success leaves clues. Like, I think that we're all here for each other,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that we do, I think it's for the sake of other people, and kind of blazing that trail. And so whether you know somebody personally or not, you can track that path. And so, yeah, there are many situations where, um, I could look and be like, oh, wow, that was transformational in seeing somebody else attain it. So, first one was when I did meet my father and start to create a relationship with him. He lives in South Florida. And specifically, if you're familiar with like the Boynton Beach area, Delray Beach, Palm Beach, West Palm, there
Mm-hmm.
is a road called the A1A. And I used to just love asking him, like, hey, can you drive me up and down the A1A? Because on one side it's the ocean, and on the other side it's these insane homes, right? And growing up in Albuquerque, I'm not seeing anything like that. And I truly think that one of the biggest issues for people is that they just don't see it, right? You don't even see that that's a possibility. And so I was enamored, right? Just like, oh man, driving up and down that street, and the thought that I would always have would be like, and I'd ask my dad, like, what do you think that person does? What do you think
Mm-hmm.
they do? Because at the end of the day, the person who bought that house is a human being, right? The person who uh, even had the vision is a human being, and I'm just of the belief that well, not even that I'm of the belief. I mean, the National Human Genome Research Society of America says that we're 99.9% the same in terms of genetic makeup when we're just talking DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that we're a lot more alike than we think. And there's probably, so you're talking about, a tenth of a percentage difference between you and I. Um, and a lot of that has to do, like, where people get to me has a lot to do with the decisions and the belief. Of course, there are people that start at level 10 and there are people that start at negative level 10, but there's also the Oprah Winfreys of the world and people that have started and had very tumultuous past that have surpassed literally everyone to being a 1% of the 1% in terms of notoriety, success, greatness, whatever, in their given field. And so that was a big moment for me, just being young and actually seeing something like that. I mean, like, wow, that's real life. Like somebody actually made that happen for them. So if they could do it, why can't I? And I just got that in my head, and I never got it out of my head. That happened as a teenager. And then when I moved to LA, my first boss at that internship, we were working with these celebrities, and doing these awesome events. I remember he gave me like a big speech about anything in this life is attainable. Um, Kind of like a really funny long backstory to us getting to that speech, but I'll save that. But yeah, he was very much in this, like, anything that you want is attainable. Um, and another moment was when I first moved to LA. One of my best friends in the whole world, he's my chosen brother. We often say is a guy named Alex Strassmore, one of the best dudes ever. Um, when I moved to LA, a job that he got early on was, he was an EA, or a PA, like a personal assistant, a live-in assistant for this up-and-coming artist at the time who nobody really knew. He had one song that started popping at South by Southwest that Mac Miller retweeted, and then he started to blow up and performed at Kylie Jenner's 18th birthday party. That was Post Malone, right? And so when I
Mm-hmm.
met him, it was like, hey, I'm Austin Post, right? Like, you just post, right? And he was his assistant, and he just started, obviously, like, I met him when that was just barely percolating, like, not even, like, the first big party that I went to with them was like his first music video that was premiering on MTV. And a lot of people were like, oh, this might be like the one and done White Iverson kind of thing. Obviously not, right? And so, having seen that from basically inception to where it's at now, I mean, come on. What could be like a bigger example of sky's the limit? Like, there literally, if even that, there is no limit. Like, it could go from anything you want. Like, it could go from just barely, like, oh, like, I make music, to I would find it, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who didn't know the name Post Malone on this
Yes.
earth, right, at this point. So that was a big one for me. And then I've had times where friends and family, like, that don't work in the industry, maybe they excelled up the ladder at a 9 to 5 job that they had, or they got this big bonus or something cool like that. Or I also find a lot of motivation in stuff like someone running a marathon or writing a book, anything like that. I just think that we can do hard things, right? And so when you see people do hard things or things that may seem impossible, whether that's attaining success, as the world would say it, um, or a big accolade, or being on a TV show, or hitting a number one, on the radio charts, all of that is just, if I could do it, or if they could do it, I could do it. And then furthermore, if they could do it, I could do it. If I could do it, you could do it. Right. So it's not just the receiving of that, but it's also a big part of my why. I want to go as hard as I can and excel as much as I can and create a big platform and all of these things, not for me, but again, like I said earlier, it's for the sake of others, right? So, like, I want people to look at me and be like, well, that dude from Albuquerque with a single mom who had these hard things happen in his life did all that, surely I could do it, right? Um, so yeah.
Did you have a breakthrough moment in your career? Like, I know you mentioned a partnership that you had with Little Xan that led you to Chad Tepper, and now you guys have had a very fruitful friendship and partnership over the years. Is there a breakthrough moment that maybe isn't as apparent, or maybe if you want to share that story just for the community, is there something that really turned the tables? Maybe not even super super apparent, like I mentioned. Maybe just mentally saying, you know what, yeah, no, this is what I needed. Now I'm in my zone. Now I'm motivated, or now I'm kind of I'm getting a taste of what this field looks like, how I could achieve some success here. Now I'm going to get the ball rolling. Is there a moment or instance that kind of triggered that for you?
Absolutely. So I would say it wasn't. I love what you how you preface the question of it not having to be this like huge elevator moment, but just a it clicked, right?
Yep.
And so I was living in Albuquerque. I had discovered this high school rapper named Gatto Spectac who was going around doing local artist showcases, killing it. 16 years old. I'm 19. I'm like, yo, I'm going to be your manager. He's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to figure this out, but you've got something incredible. Um, so he got to open for Mac Miller, rest in peace. That was our
Rest in
first
peace.
big show.
One of the goats.
That was our first. I literally have this tattoo on my arm right here. So Mac Miller had this tatted on the side of his
Yep.
neck.
No kidding.
And I got that tattooed on my arm as a reminder.
Mm.
And I honestly got it after Mac had even passed, but as an homage, if you will, because when we did Mac and right, like we met him backstage and everything was great, but when we did that show, that's when it clicked. Like I'm gonna do music the rest of my life. Like this
Hmm.
is what I'm going to do. The preparation for it, the on stage at the time also Gatto was like literally 17 years old, so I would hype man for him because going and running a crowd of thousands of people at a Mac Miller show as a 17-year-old, he's like, will you hype man for me? So I'm on stage with him. Um, that whole
People are
moment,
thinking you're a performer, probably.
yeah, no, literally, but like I'm not. I manage him, and I'm helping out. I'm doing what we
You
got
wear
to
all the
do.
hats, of course.
I'm doing whatever I got to do.
Right.
Um, that was the moment where I was like, all right, this is 100%. And that would be, I would say, where it just clicked. And it was like, no matter what, I'm giving this all I got. I don't care if it costs um, relationships, if it costs, talking about like girlfriends, whatever. I
Hmm.
don't care, whatever. Like, I've got school, I've got a job. I was a dancer, so I had like rehearsal all the time. Like I would eat, sleep, and breathe the music stuff every second. Even like low moments in classes, I'm just watching YouTube videos on interviews with Say It Ain't Tone and Maddie B and Scooter Braun and Cortez Bryant, all these managers of artists that I loved, right? And just studying the game and doing everything that I possibly could, reaching out, having conversations. Can I get you on the radio? Can I get them on the show? Whatever I possibly could. And when the Mac Miller thing happened, like I said, it was like, all right.
Just a selfish moment for me. I know you mentioned that even if it was a brief moment that you met him, was he just infectious? Like his energy was just amazing. No, I mean, because
Yes.
you see him on video, I could only imagine that it's the same. At least it seems he's super genuine, authentic. Just a very good was a very good spirit. Like, how
Yeah.
was it when you kind of introduced yourself or met him, even if it was a little bit?
Honestly, we were chilling, like we were looking for the restroom. Dude came out of the restroom and was just like kind of like rapping and like talking and just being funny and like making sounds and was like, "Yo, what's up?" And just like said what's up to us. And then we were like, "Oh, hey, like we're opening for you tonight." And he's like, "Oh, that's tight. Like you guys can kill it." Blah blah blah. And um, yeah, man. I mean, I would say it was about what you would think it is. Like what you
Yeah.
want it to be and what you think it is what it was.
Hmm.
And then obviously he just went out and absolutely killed it. Um, I specifically remember him at that show. It's around the time like Macadelic had come out,
Hmm.
and on the speakers, like on all the wedges, the monitors that are facing him, across. It said real loud, like on each one, just spelled out real loud. And he did Kool-Aid and frozen pizza and was like, I get sued every time I perform this. Should I do it? And then everyone was like, ah. And then he did it, and
Of
of course.
course.
But yeah, no, it was amazing, man, and definitely, um, like I said, that was just a moment where I was like, this, we're doing this forever.
That's awesome. Now, you've emphasized that trust is pretty much everything in your relationship with your artists, and as many can imagine with managing artists, there's a emotional connection that needs to be harnessed with these artists. Has there been a time where your trust has been tested with these artists? And do they consistently test it? Or is it one of those deals where it's like you kind of know each other's barriers and you kind of don't test it really?
Yes, yes, trust can get tested, especially like early
And you don't need
on.
to get too specific, but it's just something, just a little taste of something of how your trust has been tested, kind of.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say especially like early on, or as success starts to kind of come, people start to creep in, try to try to grab an ear and plant a seed and try to wedge their way in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there's been, specifically with Chad, a bunch of people that have tried to come in and say what they want to say about me, or try to shift our working relationship. But when I say a test, it's a test by definition or by nature, not because I was ever worried, right? Thing is anytime one of those things happen, like there'd be times where I'm like, these poor people, they have no idea like how close we actually are, because as soon as that conversation happens, then he comes to me. And then they
Mm-hmm.
try to act like we're cool. And I'm like, I know you.
Yeah.
I know you. Like, I know who you are. I know what you did. And the thing is like, I'm a very nice guy. I don't even need to say anything because you've already lost, right? Like, you tried, he told me. Now we're slowly excommunicating you, or we'll just do what we got to do, and there will be this exchange. But the thing that bums me out is like, we could have been good friends. We could have had a great working relationship. And I'm a very loving and respectful person. I'm from Albuquerque though. So like, don't get it twisted. Like, you cross
Yep.
me now,
Don't
like,
mess with me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's all good. Like, it's I'm not vindictive, or there will be no retaliation, because I'm a faith man, and I'm gonna take the high road for sure. But there are times where it's like, well, that's why I've got God, because I'm not perfect, right? And so within that, I'm like, all good. You're done. Like, we're done. But all good. Crazy that we had to learn, because of like, you tried to test the trust, you tried to test the working relationship between myself and the artist that I'm working with, right? Um, and it's all good. You just, oftentimes you actually see who it's going to be before it even happens. But the thing is
Mm.
people always tell on themselves.
Yep.
And if you haven't, which is why I just don't have an agenda with anyone that I work with, right? Like, everything is what you see is what you get. This is why I'm here. I'm not here for proximity to somebody else. I'm not here to make this happen, to then go off on the side, and that's just not me, right? So what you see is what you get. You're never going to have to wonder where you stand with me. I'm very direct. I don't have time for anything else, right? And that's just the way that I was raised, and also because I did suffer a lot of tragic and sudden loss as a young kid. Like, so I grew up with a single mom without my dad. My football coach was my father figure. He passed away when I was 15, right? So that was really tough. Young age loss, anchor, tentpole figure in my life. From there, when I was 18, my best friend got hit by a car, died like 3 days before we graduated high school.
Mm.
So another big moment, right? And then I also, about 3 years ago, I lost my stepsister in a tragic accident, right? So I don't have time to like be anything but genuine and authentic and loving. And if that's not what you bring, and you have some other weird, just take it somewhere else. And the other thing is, again, I put my faith in God, right? So working with a business partner, an artist, do I want to do that? Yes, that's why I'm doing it. If you leave though, I'm always going to be good. Like I'm going to be straight. Not saying like, oh, whatever. Of course there would be a mourning, there would be hurt, but if that's the way it was supposed to be, that's the way that it was supposed to be, right? And
Hmm.
so I'd rather just find out and just know, as opposed to have any sort of like questions or gray areas, or what if this happens or what if that happens. And at first Chad and I were on a handshake deal, right? And I remember getting him a big payout one time, and I was like, this is a big test in my mind. I didn't say that to him. First thing he did, Mike, was he picked me up, took me to the bank, cashed me out.
Mm.
That's the kind of guy that he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so again, it was a test, but there were tests by definition, but never tests that I had any doubt over.
Right. Right.
Which, because if I had doubt, I wouldn't have been there in the first place.
That makes sense.
You know.
Could I just give you flowers real quick? So much adversity you've been through, and not only do you compose yourself to where you're at right now, it's just remarkable. It really
Thank you.
is. And like I said, when I met you in person, I mean, the energy you gave off was just super infectious. So a lot of people, they go through adversity and they let it define them, and you've definitely let it define you, but in a positive manner where you're using it in a positive light to be able to progress personally and professionally. So just giving you
Thank you.
flowers really quick for that. But going back into your relationship with artists, I mean, I could only imagine how difficult it is to balance, you know, being able to focus so much of your energy and time into helping them progress as an artist and in their professional career, but also being able to progress in your own personal career, right? Because I feel like you give a lot of energy towards managing these artists, but then maybe at the end of the night, you're saying, okay, how am I going to get better as a person or professionally? Um, is it difficult to balance those two realms where you're trying to help somebody else, but maybe you need to help yourself before you help somebody else? Or is this something that you've always been really good with, being able to balance between your own personal professional life and someone else's personal and professional life?
I mean, it's all just discipline and scheduling, right? Is the way that I look at it. My wife, there's times where I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh, we'll just do this, and she's like, well, not everyone has that level of discipline. So for me, I would say, just in my nature, that no, it's not difficult for me. And if I could do it, you could do it, right?
Right.
But the key to that is just being incredibly disciplined and having very clear prioritization. So for me, it was taught at a young age, like about the Eisenhower matrix, which is basically these this these four squares, that this four quadrants of important, not important, urgent, not urgent, right? And
Mm-hmm.
being able to look at, all right, well, what's mission critical? Mission critical is important and urgent, right? What's important but not necessarily urgent, meaning I've got to do this, but it doesn't need to happen today, right? Like important, not urgent would be like going to the gym, right? Like it's important, but like I need to do it daily, but like it doesn't have to be right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas maybe if a client were to call me and there's something that has to happen right now in this moment, then it becomes important and urgent. And so again, then you have your not important, not urgent, and you can look at these different quadrants and kind of set up your priorities through that. So I think the biggest thing I learned in school, like I had said, wasn't even necessarily curriculum. It was balancing a healthy schedule, because I had full time school. I had a job serving and bartending. I was in the dance company, so the rehearsals and managing the artists, and any sort of like social life outside of that, right? Like there were times where it was like down to the hour I was scheduled. Bit of a type A personality, a bit like probably excessive at 19, 20 years old, but I knew what I wanted. And so getting that stuff in my DNA, it's just like, all right, cool. Like I know exactly what I need to do and when I need to do it. And so, is it a challenge sometimes? Yes, especially if like stuff's popping off at Knox. Like literally right now in this season, it's start of the year. Stuff is popping at Knox. Thank God. Chad just hit the road. Night one of his tour was last night. He's got a 40-date tour. Just dropped a big song with the biggest feature of his career. I got family in town, literally upstairs as we speak. And
Yep.
so it is really just about having a healthy setup of prioritization of saying, all right, while I progress here, I must progress here. And there are things that I just don't negotiate on um, when it comes to myself. And what I mean by that is like, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and then I'm a professional. I'm a partner at Knox. I'm a manager of these
I
artists,
love that.
right?
I love that.
Um, and the best me is what is the best we. I have a lot of people that are relying on me. First, again, my daughter and my wife, right? My wife and my daughter, they rely on me. And if I'm not like the best version of myself, then it's easy to like let these things kind of spill and bleed out onto each other. And the biggest thing is um, having your anchor moments of like, all right, well, what's going to keep it being my mental space, me in the best place possible. All right, well, I got to be in the gym. I got to get some time with God and pray and read and open up my Bible and journal. And I have to eat well and drink water. And if I'm not doing those things, then that's the days where things get really hard and really stressful. And then it starts to bleed. And it's like, oh, well, I was trying to read this book, but I got to do this. And then what about that? And then, oh, now Chad's calling. And then what about this client at Knox? And crap, well, now I got to close my computer because I've got to go to a pediatrician or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's where it can start to get crazy. And so really building out that super disciplined schedule. Like I go to the gym super early in the morning, not particularly because I'm a morning person, but because there's no other time to do it. And I know that I need to do it if I want to be the best version of Niko. So that way I can give that to my family and to my clients and to my business partners and to my friends, right? Because then it'll get to the point where if I'm not doing that and then my friend calls me, he's going through something, I'm ignoring the call, whatever. I'm tired. I don't want to jump on the phone. I don't want to go hang out, whatever it may be. And that's just not a life to live, right? And so, yeah.
I love that. Now, you've mentioned being a father, and I want to dip into that really quickly because now that you're balancing fatherhood and your career, and I've seen your daughter, she's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
But now that you're balancing fatherhood and your career, what's kind of one lesson from just being a dad that you wish you understood earlier in life? And it's a tough one because, there's probably so many, but
Yeah.
something that it gives you a whole new perspective, right? It gives you a whole new, maybe you've seen it in movies, you've seen it with other dads, but once you actually live it, you're like, okay, this is, especially you're a girl dad too. So I could only imagine that that's a whole different type of dad, right? So what's just one lesson or something that you could take away that you understood earlier in life, whether you use it professionally or just something that you wish you knew earlier?
I mean, being a husband and being a father is like the biggest mirror to you, right? To where like you can really see your strengths and your shortcomings where you need to grow. And I would say that the first thing that popped in my head was it's not about you, right? And I knew this, right? Again, the things that we're doing are for the sake of others. It's bigger than you. But now, when I look at my daughter, especially because we look so similar, and I see when you're like seeing the living, breathing next generation, where I'm like, all right, well, my ceiling is her floor. And so that why has never been stronger. And then also just like the sacrifice of being like, all right, I'm starving right now, like because I haven't eaten. Um, but I'm not going to go upstairs and make myself food. My daughter needs to eat, so she's going to eat. Then I'll eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just little things like that. And I think that there's so many different parallels within running a business, within managing an artist, within even just being a friend in life in general. Is like, all right, cool. Like it's not about me, right? And there are times where you take things personally. Maybe somebody leaves a job, maybe somebody leaves a project that you're working on or that you're the founder of, and you take it personal, but really they're just doing something else that actually has nothing to do with you, right? These are little moments where I'm like, it's not about you all the time. right? So
I like that.
it just kind of shifts that me centric viewpoint into something else, right? And so um, even like travel for work and things like that, it's like, oh, I want to be at home more than I want to travel. I love to travel, and we have clients that allow us to do that often, which is great. Um, but at this point, I'm like, I want to be famous at home, right?
Yeah.
I want to crush it here more than I want to crush it anywhere else. It's great that my clients love me, but if my daughter or wife didn't, like, forget it. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
again, that's probably like the biggest thing.
Now, has having a daughter given you a newfound motivation or potential, or is it something maybe I need to lean back away from work a little bit and appreciate what I have right in front of me?
Bit of both.
Bit of
Bit
both,
of
right?
both. I would say that fire is like more lit than ever before. Of like, I want to go harder, not just in work and everything, right? Like I work harder in the gym. I read more. Like I want to just become a more well-rounded man to provide and protect and set the example and build my legacy within her. Not my legacy, but our legacy of like the bloodline, right? And teach her like things that, again, my ceiling is her roof, or sorry, my roof is my ceiling is her floor.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I've never been more inspired to work harder and be better in every single way, be healthier, live longer, all of these things that you might not pay as close attention to. And even if you do pay close attention to it, you pay a lot more attention to it when you have a child come into this world, and then simultaneously being like, I'm good, I'll stay home. Like I'd rather not. Like it's gonna take a lot for me to leave now, because I'd
Yeah,
rather just spend the time with her.
of course.
Um, yeah.
Makes sense. Now, you've spoken a lot about believing in yourself, building meaningful relationships. If you had to distill kind of your journey up to this point into one lesson, and it's very tough, but I'll give you a second just to think about it. If you had to distill your whole entire journey from 19-year-old Niko to where you're at right now, um, for somebody listening who's trying to find their own path, where would you kind of lean towards? I know it's again a very general question. I mean, it's a very general, yeah, a very general question. But do you think they should focus on themselves? Do you think that they should try and obviously research and stuff like that? What do you think is a lesson that you've learned throughout the years that maybe has helped you drastically and could help somebody who's trying to find their own path, not the conventional path where it's the 9 to 5 or getting a degree in exercise science or being a physical therapist? What's something somebody who's trying to be an entrepreneur or business owner, and everyone's looking at them saying, "What the hell are you doing, bro? This is something that's just insane." What's something that you would say that's a good lesson that would help them or helped you?
Yeah, man. Um, there's a lot there.
And I know
I,
there's so many. I know there's so many. So that's why I'm kind of putting you in a tough spot right now.
yeah, no, I love it though. I love it though. This is getting me thinking, and even just re-inspired. I mean, um, maybe I'll just give a few tidbits of
Hmm.
like things
Hmm.
that have helped me. One, I just think see what others can't, right? Like you have to see what others cannot. You have to see what others can't see within you. Because if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. Um, and I love what even Conor McGregor, when he had rose, ascended through the UFC, he's like, well, if you could see it here and you have, the bravery, the guts to speak it, then it'll be. And I believe that for sure. I mean, like I said, I was running around Albuquerque at 19 years old saying I'm a music manager and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. People were looking at me side eyed, like what? But the thing is I saw it and I knew it. And I literally have that LED sign right up there. It says, see what others can't. It's just a
Mm,
daily reminder for me to see what others can't. And I think like not only in myself, but in people that I hire, in potential, like how we can level up clients, in market shifts, all of these different things. I just, that's my biggest prayer. God, let me see what others can't. Let me see what you see.
mm,
Um, and then, I mean, it's funny because like all my tattoos are like a collection of just like these reminders for me. And I have on my wrist the words right here. Um, don't future trip. Be right here. Have vision, but don't let the vision trump where you're at right now, because they say it like this, that anxiety lives in the future, regret lives in the past, but the best peak performing you lives right now. Right. So,
Mm,
yes, see what others can't, have the vision for it, but don't get so caught up living your life ahead or regretting what's behind that you forget where you're at today. What can I do today? What's mission critical today? What are the daily priorities, the disciplines that I need to do today? Because a great today will build a better tomorrow, right? Like these are like political campaign slogans, right? They're cliche sayings, but they're cliche for a reason. And so just be where your feet are. And my friend's grandfather, I met him right before he passed away. He was in hospice, and he literally looked at me and he was like, "Niko, on your journey, just remember to take deep breaths and small steps."
wow, that is
And
super
that to me was is literally the last thing he said to me. I actually hadn't even met him before. My friend was like, I went to his house and he's like, "Oh yeah, my grandpa wants to like say something to you." Went in, and I've been saying that since. Right, and that was like 12 years ago or 9 years ago, something like that. But deep breath, small steps, be where your feet are, see what others can't. And I believe if you take that, it'll work out for you.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for that. It was super impactful. And I'm
Let's
sure
go.
if we had so many more hours, you'd be able to give me so much more. And I appreciate your time on here. Before we head out of here, I just wanted you to plug any socials or any exciting things that you're doing just so that the people know and how they get a hold of you, contact you, because I'm sure you're getting a few off of this podcast. I know I was super inspired, so I'm sure many will be as well.
Let's go. Well, Mike, thank you for making this happen.
Of
Inspired by
course.
you. So happy that our paths crossed. I know we have many things to do together in the future, but thank you for making this space for not only myself, but the community that's tapped in. You could follow along my journey. Check me out, Niko G. Ivanov, on all socials. Company that I'm partnering, our agency, NOX Media, NOX Media. You can find us on all socials. Manage a few artists right now. Chad Tepper at Chad Tepper just dropped a song with Wiz Khalifa on a big tour from now until April. So some fun things in store for him for 2025. I would plug a lot of other things, but I do got to jump. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem, brother. Hopefully our paths cross again in the future, and we'll definitely be speaking soon.
All right, man. Peace,
Thanks,
bro.
brother.